what banks are. And so just from an information theory standpoint, this should be something that can be much better if it can be real time, secure, and just very fast. Essentially, it's just one real-time database. So it's like, okay, let's try to build that. So that's what X.com was. And then at the time, I also thought what we should try to do is just do all the financial things as well, not just payments. I still think that's really what PayPal should have done, but whatever, it's water under the bridge at this point. And then there was a company that was formed around the same time called Confinity, which was Peter Thiel and Max Levchin and Luke Nosek, David Sachs, Ken Howery, and a number of others. And at X.com, there's also like Jeremy Stoppelman, and who created Yelp, Roloff Botha, who then went on to run Sequoia and fund YouTube. It was at X.com. So we just had this like two companies with like a crazy amount of talent, X.com and Confinity. And Confinity started as a Palm Pilot cryptography company. Back when you'd communicate via the infrared port of a Palm Pilot.
I remember that.
Yeah, I had one Palm Pilot.
So it was like, so you could basically communicate crypto tokens between Palm Pilots using the infrared port and then reconcile them on a PC. Now, obviously, they evolved to go in the payments direction as well. And we were both in Palo Alto, like literally a block away from each other. I think at one point we were briefly even in the same building. It was, so we were just competing with each other like maniacs, and then we had a coffee on University Avenue, and said, "Hey, why don't we just combine our efforts, or we're just going to bludgeon each other to death here." So we merged Confinity and X.com, and raised $100 million in the space of 3 weeks in March of 2000.
Wow.
Yeah, and in April the market went into free fall.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
the 2000.
yeah, it was like,
I remember that.
that was insane. And we kind of thought it was going to go into free fall, but we're like, we better get this thing done fast, or we're both going to die. So. And so X.com was technically the acquirer of Confinity, but it was a 50.1 or 49.9 or something like that. And then there was a lot of drama. There was so much drama at X.com. And the company was called X.com for about a year, and then we changed the company name to the product name. The product was PayPal. But all the incorporation documents and everything is all my incorporation documents.
Who came up with the PayPal name?
I actually don't know.
People call you guys the PayPal Mafia now, Thiel wrote that in his book.
I don't know who did the PayPal. I was never a huge fan of PayPal as a name. The reason being that I thought it made sense for the company to kind of
Broader.
be much broader. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you limit yourself to payments, then necessarily people want to transfer money out of the system. And as soon as they transfer money out of the system, the efficiency of the database drops dramatically, because now you're in the traditional banking world. So if you just offer all the things that, if you just basically address all the reasons why people are taking money out of the PayPal system, so you have to provide them with checks so that you have a bridge to the legacy transaction system. You got to provide them with a debit card, provide them with the ability to get a loan and that kind of thing. But these are all ancillary to accelerating the velocity and accuracy and security of payments. Then if basically PayPal would be where all the money is. It would just suck all the money out of the banks, and the banks would go away.
Yeah.
So any plan you're gonna do with the X.com?
I wrote if they just execute the business plan, the product plan I wrote in July 2000. Let's just do that. But I talked to them several times, but they didn't do it.
So why did you and PayPal kind of part ways? What was really the drama that led to that, separation ultimately?
Well, things were very dicey in 2000.
Yeah.
Companies were dying like all over the place. So I was CEO of the combined company, and we're doing quite well from a growth standpoint. We were like adding 100,000 users a month type of thing, which back then was a lot.
Yeah.
But financially things were tough, and we needed to raise a financing round. We were also there were some technical questions around what code architecture would we go with. And then there was also a branding question. Like I said, I think we should not use PayPal as a brand because this is not consistent with being where all the money is. You want a centralized database, so I was kind of against the PayPal branding, and I wanted to do a bunch of things that seemed extremely risky, and I think those things would have worked out, but at a time when companies are dropping like flies, and I'm proposing that we do all these things that sound very risky. This is just much too scary for the rest of the team.
You seem to be attracted to crazy ideas that other people are like. I think the autopilot one is a great example where everyone's kind of trying this spatial approach to self-driving. They're doing Waymo for 10 years, nobody cares, and you come out and say, hey, we think vision is the way forward, and deep learning and vision, will take us all the way there. How do you find the courage inside to? I mean, people have to be coming up to you all the time and thinking that you're an idiot or it's never going to happen. And how do you find that in yourself to go through all that resistance and still be confident in your thesis?
I mean, I try to be hyper rational, so it's not it's just like if the reasoning fits and you're not violating laws of physics or something, then that's the thing you should do. So, and I guess the other day, if we lost all the money, I wouldn't, as long as we didn't lose other people's money, I guess I just lose my money, I don't mind. These things just don't seem that crazy to me. So, I think if PayPal had executed the plan that I wanted to execute on, I think it would probably be the most valuable company in the world.
Yeah.
It would be called X, but it would be the most valuable company in the world. On the other hand, now that's not all good though. On the other hand, then a lot of super talented people would have stayed, and because PayPal got acquired by eBay not long after, so there was the PayPal coup at the end of 2000. 18 months later, it was acquired by eBay. So, and then, if you think of the companies that came out of PayPal, the so-called PayPal mafia, YouTube, there was Steve and Chad created YouTube. Jerry Stubman created Yelp. Peter created Palantir and a bunch of other things. There's David Sachs created this company, and Reid Hoffman created LinkedIn.
Wow. It's almost like all that market cap still exists, but now it's allocated on all these other tech companies instead of X.com.
Yeah, so in retrospect, I don't know, sometimes it's maybe a good thing that X wasn't, or PayPal didn't achieve those things, because all these other companies would have at least been delayed, or may not have existed.
There's definitely been kind of a resurgence in interest as we get into kind of cryptographic, money and Bitcoin and all that, of interest in this idea, and it's interesting, software hasn't eaten the banking industry yet. Software's eaten a lot of industries. There's some that it just hasn't, and banking's still there.
Stripe's eating them slowly. but they're doing a pretty good job. The banks are in trouble if it's not Stripe, it'll be somebody else.
And you love code, but you don't seem to be as bullish on Bitcoin. Do you have any? Could you break down like why? Because you're talking about this big database that's more secure for faster transactions. It seems like Bitcoin's hitting at least some of those.
I'm neither here nor there on Bitcoin. Yeah.
What did you think when you read like Satoshi's white paper for the first time? Were you like, oh, it's pretty interesting? Or
That was pretty clever. It's just like the things. Yeah. This always gets like the crypto people angry, but there are transactions that are not within the bounds of the law, and there are obviously many laws in different countries, and normally cash is used for these transactions, but in order for illegal transactions to occur, the cash must also be used for legal transactions. You need an illegal to legal bridge. That's where crypto comes in.
So is it kind of the dark net stuff?
It can't be entirely dark, because otherwise how do you buy normal stuff? And cash these days is used just much rarer. It's hard. It's like increasingly difficult to use cash. Some places you can't use cash at all.
Yeah.
So there's a forcing function for transactions that are illegal, quasi-legal, and in some cases legal. But it's got to have some. It's got to be both legal and illegal. That doesn't count otherwise. Otherwise, it can't just be transactions within an illegal economy. Because how do you buy food in a house or something? So you must have a legal to illegal bridge. So what I see crypto as effectively is a replacement for cash, but not as a replacement as a primary. Not as I do not see crypto being the primary database. So now this is sometimes taken being like I'm being judgmental about crypto, and it's actually, I think there's a lot of things that are illegal that shouldn't be illegal. But so it's not as though. I think that sometimes governments just have too many laws about that. They shouldn't have so many things that are illegal.
Didn't you say like on Mars there'd be less laws?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Do you also propose a direct democracy on Mars?
I think probably that's the best. Probably it's the best thing.
Mars technocracy.
The Mars technocracy.
And you want to make laws super short and simple, right?
Well, yeah. If people can't understand laws, then how do you? Then what's usually going to happen is some special interest is going to bamboozle the public with long laws.
Yep.
And then the law is like reading this law. This law is like the size of Lord of the Rings, but a very boring version of it.
Like the dealership thing is just crazy to me. Like America's supposed to be competitive, free market. It's weird, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, it's just like you want to keep the laws short and give them some kind of sunset period so they don't just stay there forever. Otherwise, just accumulate over time and just eventually they'll be unwieldy. So the laws should have some time frame associated with them. They automatically go away. It's just a little short to avoid trickery and sort of special interests that ultimately does not benefit the public. And then I think direct democracy is less susceptible to corruption than representative democracy. So corruption just being like, to what degree is this action being taken that do not serve the interests of the population? Do not result in a net increase in population happiness as a whole. So that's why I think probably direct is better. And then just have things in real time. So if you want to vote on something, you can vote on it real fast. Probably make it. I would say make it easier to get rid of laws than to put them in, because these things tend to have a lot of inertia, and so have a bias towards having laws go away and not be there. So like maybe it takes 60% to put a law in place, but 40% to remove it, or something like that. Yeah. I mean, let's try it. See what happens.
The bills are extremely long that they pass. No one reads them.
Yeah.
Hardly anyone in Congress has read the bill, and even if they've read the bill, if you quiz them on the details, they wouldn't know it.
They'll find their page. They're like, "Oops."
Yeah, there's like, tell me what's this. There was no idea.
Seems kind of alarming that that's like the status quo and everyone just accepts it. But
Yeah, these laws tend to be written by industry groups as well, so they'll write the law, and then interact with the congressional staff, but most of the work will be done by the industry groups, and so they're going to write laws that entrench their position.
it's like the people or the players behind the ref, like you were saying
Yeah,
earlier. It's that
exactly.
exact.
Right, so you get the regulatory capture of yeah. The players shouldn't be paying the ref salary type of thing. Well, the ref shouldn't be thinking, I'm going to retire and get paid by the players. So it's kind of amazing that it works as well as it does, given these issues. Yeah, so then PayPal, I ended up getting malaria in 2001.
yeah.
2001.
Yeah, tell us about this. The malaria thing.
That was you went on vacation, right?
Yeah, we were in South Africa with Kimball actually.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then came back and had like a near-death case of malaria.
Yeah, grew up in South Africa. We'd go to the bushveld all the time, to the what you guys call safari, and you just had a house in the bush. So you just go there every few weeks or so. I don't think we ever took malaria tablets.
We
Yeah.
didn't have malaria in those days. I think there was a drought and then a flood and then suddenly there were mosquitoes.
Yeah, right. Like,
Yeah.
and so we were told to, and we did take malaria tablets. You took
Yeah.
them as well, and when he got back, he was in Stanford and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. Our uncle, who's a doctor in South Africa, is like, he has malaria, and they're like, no, he doesn't have malaria. We checked. So, check again. Malaria kind of hides in the body, and then
That's why they wouldn't believe it.
So this was after PayPal got started?
Oh, this is 2001. So it was sort of after the PayPal coup. So I was on the PayPal board, and I was providing sort of product advice and whatnot. But in late December 2000, went on a trip to South Africa. Came back early January 2001. I had a severe case of malaria. Almost died.
I sat next to his bed for about 5 days. It was yellow and just tubes going in and out of him. Just sat early morning till late at night, just waiting to see. And then they said to me, get some pajamas for him. And the closest store was some like Dress for Less or something. So I just got him some pajamas. And then the next thing, 5 days, he woke up and he says, so there's bunnies on my pajamas. I think he was bitter. I think they were bunnies or ducks or something, because that was what I could get. And then I knew he was better.
You were sleeping. I mean, like it affected your brain that harshly.
Yeah, no, it was bad. It was really bad.
So that changed your perspective? How did it influence you after that?
I don't know. I don't think it changed me that much. Would you say?
I don't think it changed you.
No, I don't think it did.
Recovered and went back to
Yeah.
the world.
But how many times have you been on
I
vacation?
lost like 50 pounds, so it was great.
No, so no more vacations though.
Well, yeah, it took me like almost 6 months to get back to normal.
Wow.
And then in 2001, I was thinking about what to do next, and I thought there's sustainable energy, like basically electric cars, solar, space, and then a friend of mine asked me, so what are you gonna do next? I said, well, so I would love to do something in space, but I don't think there's anything that a private individual could do in space. But at least I'm going to go on the NASA website and find out when people are going to Mars. And I go on the NASA website, and it's nowhere to be found. And so I was like, well, this is pretty weird. Then And then I discovered that it was actually a NASA policy not to talk about it.
Really?
Yeah, at the time.
Why was that, do you think?
What I was told is that when George Bush the First was when he was elected, he said he asked NASA to put together a plan to send people to Mars in 90 days. They came back with a plan, and it was $500 billion. And it says, well, this is like political suicide. So then after that, talk of manned missions to Mars were banned. That's what I was told. So I was like, well, maybe there's something that can be done here to get the public excited about going to Mars. And if I get the public excited, then they will vote NASA to have more funding. And so the original idea for SpaceX was just to have a philanthropic mission to Mars.
Yeah, actually, just started as a graphic of a pot plant. Just need to get the pot plant to Mars. It was like an inspiration.
Sure.
Just as a way to prove to the world that it could be done.
Yeah. So the mission was called Mars Oasis. It was seeds and dehydrated nutrient gel that would hydrate upon landing. You get this great picture of green plants on a red background. Be like the first sort of life as we know it on Mars, and you can also learn a lot about what does it take to keep plants alive and have a little miniature greenhouse on surface of Mars. So that's what I initially pursued as like a way to basically increase NASA's budget. It wasn't let's create a space company. It was how do we get NASA's budget increased so we can go send people to Mars. And I tried to figure out how to get this thing launched. And the rockets, the European and US rockets were too expensive, and I couldn't afford them. So